Get in, loser. We're going on a big, strange vacation. Big, strange vacation.
Big, strange vacation.
Big strange holiday. Big strange vacation. Woohoo! Y'all got room for one more? Hello, I'm a little lovely tadpole boy, and I can't wait to go on my big strange vacation with all my friends. Pack your bags, we're going on a big strange vacation. Big strange vacation. Welcome to Bigfoot Collectors Club, Big Strange Vacation. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Bigfoot Collectors Club, the show where we talk to amazing guests about their personal paranormal history and share stories of high strangeness. I'm your host, Michael McMillan, and with me always is the DJ of Destiny.
That sounds like a wedding DJ.
It does, doesn't it?
Hey, everybody.
That should be your side gig.
Hey, man, if you anybody out there wants to pay me to come DJ your wedding, just
get ready for your inbox to blow up, dude.
I'm about ready to get remarried. I mean, like, let's do this. Renew my
DJ
vows.
Destiny.
Yeah.
It's summertime. It's wedding season.
True. Hey, maybe this is a new side hustle right here.
Your Saturdays might get a little busy.
The
Yeah.
DJ of Destiny.
I have a wedding coming up eventually, so DJ of Destiny could be there.
Hey, wait a
Yeah.
minute. There we go.
That was submitted by Grandma Fatarkin over on the other side. Thanks, Grandma. We appreciate you. You've already heard his name. I want to bring him in because, as I mentioned, it's summer and we're kicking off our new summer series today. Our guest this week is the host of High Strangeness podcast and a very funny actor and performer and a dear, dear friend of the show, Club Scouts of all timelines. Please welcome back Mr. Steve Berg.
Oh, hello, my friends. How are you doing? I would rather be nowhere else in the entire world. So stoked to see you guys today. And folks, I don't know if you're listening to this audio. These two gentlemen look fantastic right now.
We got our tiki shirts on.
Our summer best.
Yeah, our summer best. You've got your Royals cap on, which I very much appreciate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The Kansas City Royals is the official baseball team of BCC. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
We are. If you go to the Royals Instagram account, you're going to see a lot of likes from Bigfoot Collectors Club over there.
We love the Royals.
We love the
are
Royals.
The best, man.
It
I
helps.
didn't know that. I don't know. I don't know a thing about baseball.
I was going to say it helps that Riley doesn't have any allegiance to any teams out here in California. So
I like the Dodgers aesthetic of LA. So for that, I will say Dodgers.
I like the Dodgers too. They're my National League team.
They are my National League team as well.
Everyone's
you can do
happy.
that.
And guess what? The aesthetic of the Dodgers is very, very similar to the aesthetic of the Royals. It's just a slightly different shade of blue.
Perfect.
And the uniforms look very similar. The writing of the team logo looks very similar.
But you know where the Royals overtake them though, Michael, is when they wear those baby blues.
Oh, baby.
Buddy, when they wear those, oh man.
Nothing makes me feel more like it's the summer of 1985 than when I see those baby blues out on the field. I love it. I want everyone to stop what they're doing and Google Royals babies blues. So it's actually, Riley, you should. It's a very cool uniform.
I am.
It is. It's so
That
fucking cool.
is.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah.
That's pretty choice.
It's nice. It's nice.
I like it. Very
Just
good.
Pour George Brett right into that uni and send him on out.
He's so cool.
He's so cool. Okay. Let's announce the theme for this summer.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't hear it over on the other side on Friday, it is time, everybody, for Big Strange Vacation. All summer long, we are going to be looking at the weirdest, the spookiest, and the most mysterious places in the world. All right. All of our stories of high strangeness are going to focus on one of these locales. And we've got the mother of all mysterious locations for you in today's episode, a little bit later in the episode. But I'm very excited about this because also we're going to be doing a little bit of road tripping ourselves this
That's
summer.
right.
In fact, we invited Steve here today to kick off this summer event because we're going to be closing out the summer with Steve Berg in Kansas City on Friday, August 1st at Paracon KC. That's right, Steve. You're our official guest for our live show on Friday night, August 1st.
I can't even tell. I mean, like, you're gonna make me cry. I wasn't prepared for this, but no, I cannot tell you how excited I am for this. One, it got me at my high school graduation, or like my what do we call a reunion?
Yeah, wait a minute.
Graduating.
I think you should definitely attend your high school graduation, Steve, if you haven't done so already.
I know.
Oh my god.
No, but I was dreading this reunion because that's not my speed. But this got me out of it. And also, too, to just like make some jazz on stage with y'all. This is going to be beautiful. Beautiful.
Now, true or false? You will also be doing a panel at Paracon KC.
Yeah. I think it might be a lecture, actually.
Right.
I think
Well,
I'm
that's a
giving
panel,
I think I'm giving a UFO lecture on the Midwest UFOs, like the weirdest cases.
Cool.
That's very fun. Okay.
Yeah.
We want to be there for that.
Yeah.
There's some in Kansas, too.
I'm going to cover a ton of those. I'm going to mostly stick with Nebraska, Kansas, and Iowa.
I love it. So, I love that you're going to be there. We're going to get up to some hijinks when you're in Kansas City.
Oh, yeah. A little bit of trouble.
We might go do a little side questing ourselves. So stay tuned for that, everybody. Who knows what could happen. But to celebrate Big Strange Vacation, we have a brand new summer logo, a new piece of artwork from our dear friend James Mulholland, who's done all of our previous summer iterations, except for Big Hairy Summer. He did BCC Jet Ski Summer. He did Wet Hot Alien Summers 1 and 2. And we have the artwork here. It's an awesome vintage postcard with Big Strange Big Strange Vacation on it. And it's great. It's just like one of those postcards you pick up on a road trip. You got a little alien on there. You got Area 51. You got a pyramid. You got a UFO. You got a water tower. You got Bigfoot. Some Easter eggs and some teases in this for what might be in store this summer here on the Clubhouse feed and over on BCC, the other side. So take a little look. You're getting a little hints, and not all of them are going to be included, but there's definitely some in there, including the one that we're doing today.
It's so good too. We should make this as an actual postcard if we can figure that out.
I know. If we can figure we'll figure out how to do that. Another empty promise. Another empty promise that we'll make. But I
got a postcard guy.
But you can get this on merch, a mug, a t-shirt right now in the BCC merch shop. Now, I'm going to say something up front that is not official yet, but Riley and I are talking about relocating our merch shop from TeePublic to another vendor site that has better quality. And so stay tuned for those announcements once we make that official. But by the time you hear this, you will be able to get the Big Strange Vacation merch. Just click the link in the show notes. Okay.
Yes.
I love it.
Always improving. Always improving.
Steve, are you a mug guy?
Oh, in the biggest way. Okay. I have. That's like mugs and beer koozies are the only kind of like souvenirs I like.
Great. Well, you got a mug coming your way.
Girlfriend, thank you.
Get ready.
Hell yes.
Okay, let's do this. We want to catch up with Steve, but before we do that, we have some pressing BCC news.
I forgot to preload the audio cue.
That's fine.
So we just sort of spotted it.
And we timed it out telepathically in our minds. Steve, have you noticed, or did you notice these headlines dropping this past week? This is from People Magazine, picking up a news thread. I think that was originally dropped on Fox News. Mysterious metal sphere sparks UFO debate. Never seen a piece like this. This is about a metallic sphere that was reportedly initially spotted flying over Colombia on March 2nd. Now, I have a photo for you guys to check out. Go to our Instagram, or if you're watching this on YouTube, I will throw it up right now. Here's the article. Some scientists have been studying a mysterious sphere seen in Colombia that they believe to be a UFO, although others are skeptical. The metal item was initially spotted over Buga, Colombia on March 2nd before later being recovered in the area, according to a video from scientists that was shared online. Already a little vague, a video from scientists.
Yeah.
I will say don't get too excited, everybody, but this is fun. Jose Luis Velasquez, one of the researchers studying this sphere, said that the object appears to have no welds or joints, both of which would typically indicate human manufacturing. The sphere also appears to have symbols carved on its surface, he added. Very, what was the Pennsylvania, the acorn-shaped?
Yeah, the Kecksburg.
Kecksburg, thank
acorn,
you.
Yeah.
I almost said Kinsburg, and I knew that was wrong.
Close enough.
Velasquez and his team said that they used an X-ray on the object and found that it consists of 3 layers of metal along with 9 microspheres in the interior.
9?
9. It is very...
I've heard of 7. I've heard of maybe 8, but...
9 microspheres? It is a very rare piece. I've never seen a piece like this, Velasquez said. Julia Mossbridge, a member of the University of San Diego's Department of Physics and Biophysics and co-founder of the Institute for Love and Time, told Fox News that the sphere, quote, looks to me like a really cool art project. Before you decide something is anomalous or a UFO, bring the object to a group like the Galileo Project, Mossbridge continued, referring to the international research project founded by Harvard University astrophysicist Avi Loeb, which aims to vet and study potential extraterrestrial artifacts through rigorous scientific research. Now, I have never heard of the Galileo Project. Does this ring any bells?
It's real. It's real. Yeah, it is. Avi Loeb was the guy who wrote the book about the, I can't say it, the Anunnaki.
The Anunnaki?
No, it's the.
I was gonna say
when that giant rock
Mau
that they
Mau?
thought. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I add too many
kept calling
syllables
it
to it.
Montgomery,
I'll
like
never be able to say it,
Floyd
no matter
album.
what, even with coaching.
Yeah.
But so he wrote the book on that, and then after that got the grant for the Galileo Project, and I think some pretty legit scientists are actually on it. But
I checked out their website and I was like, damn, this is cool. This is like the Pegasus Project from Marvel Comics or something. It's like, it's kind of sexy.
But if I'm me, the way I'm thinking these days, you give that sphere to a bunch of magicians, man. They're going to figure it out faster.
There you go. Give it to...
Take it out of the magic castle.
Yeah.
Put on a suit, head on down there.
Yes, absolutely.
Give it to the ghost piano player down there. See what she can do with it.
Thank you.
The researcher added that similar findings might say more about the current state of humanity than about the universe at large. We are entering a time when we don't have the control that we thought we had, she told Fox News. If an artist is doing this, why is that? Well, I think it's partly the same reason. It's because we're learning that we don't understand what's in our skies or our waters. And there's something going on that's essentially bigger than us. And while Mossbridge sounded dubious of the recent find in Colombia, she doesn't necessarily believe that all UFO sightings or artifacts are a hoax. Thank you, Julia. Frankly, we've been looking at UAPs for decades, and the federal government has admitted that there are things that we don't understand, but we are investigating them. Well, there is a follow-up to this story, and would you believe it? This really does sound like this is like an art project. They decoded there's a link. Let me throw it up in the. Do you have that link there in the show notes at the bottom of this? cybernews.com.
Yeah,
if you
Cyber News.
Pull that up and scroll down, you get a closer look at the
Cyber News.
I know, Cyber News. It's pretty great.
I'm jealous of that.
There was a lot. I feel like a lot of people kind of dropped this story, and Cyber News is like, no, we're going to pick this up and run with it.
This is right up Cyber News alley.
So there's
Hoax or hyper object.
Yeah, there's like, you can see the designs on it. Now, I do think I saw another thing today. Now I'm having a hard time finding it, Columbia Sphere, that this is basically like they transcribed the symbols, and it's like a total like art project. It's basically just like humanity needs to come together. And this reminded me of that. Remember when the monoliths were showing up everywhere in the desert a few years back?
Mm-hmm. I loved it.
Yeah. So yeah, the Buga Sphere, I think is just sort of a art installation.
Michael, I want to pay you a really quick compliment, and that is you read off the page so well.
Oh, well, thank you.
Like you speed up, you slow down the intonations. It's like it would take me 5 takes to do that, like cleanly.
This is
You're a great reader.
You know what? It's just years and years of reading weird news articles. I mean, 7 years of reading news articles. You pick it up.
Practice,
the problem is I can't find the one that I found earlier today that talks about it being. If I find it, I'll throw it up in the show notes. But anyway, Buga Sphere, fun news.
It looks very, very fake.
It looks
on
very
cyber
fake.
news.
Yeah.
I did see a video of like some dude pouring like water over it, and it was steaming.
Oh,
did you see that one?
No.
It might have. I mean, like it didn't look very authentic, but it was like everyone. There was a bunch of people who were like, oh, and they were like, it was like steaming, and they were pouring water on it. That's like, but then it went away. I didn't hear anything about it.
That image in the first article that you shared looks like AI. Like that doesn't even look.
It does.
Yeah, I
real.
don't even think that's the actual sphere. Now that I'm looking at the picture of the
Not
sphere,
according to cyber news, it's not.
So I will put up the correct image of the sphere when I throw this up on the show notes. But yeah, I think the one in the article is like because it's got different lines on it than the one that they've allegedly recovered. Well, there you go. Buga Sphere. We'll keep you posted. If it hatches and a dragon comes out, we'll let you know.
We can only hope.
God, that is exactly what we need right now. I'm telling you.
Wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be awesome to be like, oh, now we're in Game of Thrones? Like dragons have returned.
We need something ontologically discombobulating to shake us out of this.
Yeah, just shake
crazy.
it up.
Yeah, shake it up. I think.
Yeah.
By the way, there are dragon conspiracy theorists on YouTube now. And on Facebook, there are people that are like, they're hiding it from us. Dragons are real. There's people like allegedly taking photos of dragons like burning down skyscrapers in China. And they're like, why is the government hiding the truth about dragons?
I mean, why are they, Michael?
I don't know.
Do you have a reason?
Think about it.
Think about it, man.
All right, we'll be right back. And when we do, we're going to check in with Steve Berg about his big, strange vacations. All right, Steve. Sitting down. You're in the hot seat now.
A little confrontational.
All right, Steve.
All right, Steve.
Pull up a chair.
Michael, why are you shining a light in my face?
Steve, I have a question that I want to ask all of our guests this summer. What was your weirdest trip?
Wow. I can easily say it was in Crestone, Colorado, which is southern Colorado, right in the Four Corners. Like, and it's also a known place for craziness, but like that was the weirdest trip. It's where I've like had my one really like jarring paranormal thing happen to me.
Wait, really? Did you tell us about that? I mean, you must have told us about this on the show.
I think
Episode.
I probably did. Yeah, I saw like a weird like rectangle person.
Let's revisit this. Come on now.
I wasn't alone either, which is like I would have.
Did you have a Gumby sighting?
Kind of, but it was more like right angles. There was no smoothness to this thing. So long story short, I was there in Crestone. It was like 4 years ago, and we were rounding it. I mean, there's a whole big long story to it but I'm not going to waste the time. Essentially,
we have the time. This is the place to waste it.
Well, okay. So I was there for this like small UFO gathering where I was emceeing this small event.
Okay,
right?
Why would you leave this out of the story?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a long story, but like I was staying in these condos there, and we were in the middle of nowhere. It was like, and this place is like, I think literally considered the darkest and quietest place in the lower 48. It is like a weirdo. It's Weirdoville. The Native American, the Navajo called it the Bloodless Valley because shamans would go there with no weapons, even if when they were fighting warring with other tribes. There was no fighting allowed in this area.
Okay.
Like it is a old, very sacred place. And Christopher O'Brien, who is one of my favorite researchers, wrote like 3 books about this area. Been a big fan. Anyways, I'm there. And they do the first night they do like a CE5, which I was like, all right, it's like I'll join it up. It was for free.
CE5, stop and explain that.
Yeah, which is kind of these. I mean, like I'm not saying I put a lot of stock into it, but like it is contact with alien protocols. And honestly, what it really is a magic ritual, which they don't want to call it that. But I was like, whoa, we're doing like Crowleyan magic here in the desert.
So the alien protocols is the occult ritual.
It felt like an occult ritual to me, which I'd never been involved with. So I thought that was kind of rad. But then we had like night vision goggles. People were like, "Oh my god, look at the triangle!" And I'm like, "That's a satellite." But I was like kind of the cynical person there, not because that's what I want to be, but like I did not think I genuinely saw anything.
Mm-hmm.
Later that night, it was someone's birthday. We go to have some birthday cake. Had a couple IPAs, maybe a tug off a pen that does something weird to your head.
Thought you were going someplace else for
Benjamin Button.
I want to have full disclosure.
I want to have
full disclosure. But 2 beers. Look, I mean, I can drink. That doesn't do much to me. But I want to just be honest. But anyways, we're leaving this one condo that's attached to the condo I'm staying in. Me and this other dude, and we are rounding a corner. And as we round the corner, there's a space between the like cabins, and we see what it looks like. This figure that's made of like a bunch of rectangles. Like remember those old toys where you pull the string and like the guy in the wooden thing, like a Pinocchio type thing? It was like it looked like it was like a marionette. And it happened we saw it for about a second. But the dude I was with was so startled that he slammed his arm on my chest like he was a mom at a stoplight. and we both stood there and we didn't say anything for like 5-10 seconds. And I was like, should we go see what that was? Like, he goes, no, we should go inside. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Like, I was so horrified. I
don't think you told, man, someone's going to
I
remember.
haven't,
I don't think you've told us this story on the show.
Well, I'll be honest. Like, I didn't start talking about it like till somewhat recently because I don't know, for some reason, I'm like, I don't want people to think I'm crazy. Isn't it weird? I have a podcast about this stuff. Yeah, I was too scared to talk about myself, but I'll be honest, I did not like it. I left a day early. I didn't listen to music or like anything for like 8 hours on my road trip home. I was like, I'm gonna go home and burn all my UFO books and stuff. Like I got what I wanted and I did not like it.
Okay,
it freaked me out.
Let's unpack this. So, how close? First of all, you summoned whatever this thing is.
I feel like the CE5 might have done it. It's like I didn't see anything in the sky, but I got something later, which is interesting.
Can you pause that 1 second and describe in as much detail as possible what this thing was? The height, color, any sound associated, anything like the immediate environment. Right. Just like take that Patterson Gimlin freeze frame and paint that for us.
It looked like it could have been a shadow cast on there was like this back wall, and it looked like it was hard to tell if it was like material or a shadowy thing that was, but what it looked like was a thing that was humanoid shape made of a bunch of rectangles of different sizes. There was nothing smooth about it at all. The thing was, I didn't even get to talk to the guy when we like went. So we basically, after we saw it, he turned his flashlight on his iPhone, and we like walked to the path, and I had the keys. I opened the door. We get inside, and I thought we were gonna like sit down and have a rap session about this. And he goes, "Good night, Steve." And I was like, and he was like a 63-year-old man, right? So I was like deferring to his like status, and I was like, okay, good night, Danny. And then I went to my bedroom, and a white mouse ran over my Birkenstock. I swear to God, dude, I'm not joking.
What does the white mouse have to do with this?
I don't know, but like I actually looked up the symbolism. I think it meant like abundance or something like that. But like I'm like, I didn't feel abundant that night. Yeah, I was so scared. I slept in my coat, didn't take my shoes off. I went pee, and I was like, don't even look in my peripheral. I slept on top of the thing, slept for about 4 hours, and then drove home a whole day early. And I texted everyone, like, sorry, an emergency at home. I had to go. I was like, it traumatized me.
How tall?
It felt like it was pretty tall, like taller than me, but it was also happened so fast that like it's really hard. And it was so weird. Like I'm like, I don't feel like I've ever heard of this before, to be honest. Like it's not something like it wasn't like a shadow person you hear about, because it wasn't like roundish.
This is ringing some bells for me, actually. Riley, do you know what I'm going to say?
No, but I'm sort of curious, what was it that was so unsettling about it to you? Was it the
Great question.
fact that it shouldn't be, or was there something attached to it that felt sinister or bad, or what was it?
That's a good question. I did not feel like there was any sort of like spiritual or metaphysical like negativity. It was just, I think it was so jarring and shocking that like, I think I felt in my life like, oh, one day I'll see like an apparition in a haunted house, or like something will move, or, maybe I'll catch a glimpse of a Bigfoot. But this was not even in my like radar or I mean, it was so unexpected. I think it was just shocking. And the fact that someone else saw it and was so scared too, like had I seen it by myself, I'd be like, oh man, you just like, turned your head and like there was like a motion blur, but like, it was, I didn't love it. And he, who was a UFO person, UFO enthusiast, did not like it either. So much so where he was unwilling to speak about it when we got inside. I was like, that's weird.
Yeah, when you have another witness there, that then you're cooking with gas, I think.
Yeah.
But
that was my weirdest trip. Well, for sure.
So that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
You're a pretty astute guy about this kind of stuff. Did you look up any of the local folklore after this encounter in Colorado, and did you find anything?
Well, here an interesting thing is I have been so fascinated with this place for probably a decade. This guy, recently passed away, Christopher O'Brien. Shout out. I was a huge fan of his work, and he was the guy in that area. He wrote 3 incredible must-read books called Enter the Valley. And it's all about that area and just about the folklore, the legends. I mean, there's like gnome sightings, there's deer people sightings. It's the weirdest of the weird. It is truly one of those places. Y'all should do an episode on it. In fact, when I did your guys' show 1 or 2 episodes ago, there was a listener story from Crestone.
Oh, okay.
The same area where it was like an entity that came out of the fire and then some kind of like cryptid creature like attacked their house at night. Like, so this area has, I mean, a long, way before colonialization history of crazy stuff.
Well, so I don't know. Have you had Johnny L. Tenney on High Strangeness yet? Okay. So Tenney's been collecting cases. You might want to talk to Tenney about this if you haven't already, because he's been collecting cases about not fully materialized rectangular shaped entities that people have been reporting to him that he has dubbed formonauts. And some of these are like just what he's described as like a long rectangle with like hair on it. They kind of come in different like geometric shapes and sizes. But this is setting off the formonaut alarm bell for me.
Sure is. Yeah, because it did feel like it was like a thing that was made of a bunch of blocks. Like it was very weird.
That is extremely weird.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. Crestone's like a tiny place too, right?
It's extremely small. There's like there's not even a post office. There's a gas station and a sandwich shop, and that is it. There's no people live there. In fact, like in the 80s and 90s, it was like a place where all the hippies grew weed, and the cops just kind of like FBI just like let them do it. They're like, who cares?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a real Wild West there.
Yeah.
Beautiful too. Unthinkable beauty.
Amazing. Weird. Well, I think you saw Formonaut, Steve.
I think I might have, man. Yeah, like it's but I don't want to see it again, I'll be honest. Like I would like to see anything else except for that. I did not like it.
Well, let me ask you this. What is your dream destination for a spooky, a weird, or mysterious place? Where would you like to go, and what would you like to see while you're there?
That is such a wonderful question. Oh wow. You know what? I mean, like, I would love, honestly, my dream is to be on a farm, probably in the Midwest, and see a flying saucer like land in a field, and see like a little like 1960s, 70s type humanoid come off, do some weird stuff, take soil samples, and then take off. That is like, that's my dream.
Yeah,
that's my dream.
A little Cusack alien
it's not
encounter
the sexiest
style
location, but like, I mean, if you're,
I see it. The old truck on the hill on the horizon.
You nailed it. Yeah, like retro as hell, like a little junky looking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, and it's good too because you want to be in the Midwest because they got those big skies,
That's
so you're going to get a
exactly
really good look at this thing landing and taking off.
Oh yeah, the craft like lights are shining on the wheat field. I mean, like, oh, beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful. I love this. You should write a poem about it, Steve.
I'm jotting notes down right now.
You could write some really beautiful alien encounter poetry, I think.
I feel like it would. It might drift into like the penthouse letters. It might get
be
a little
a companion piece. to Michael's cryptid erotica.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna start writing cryptid erotica now, Steve. I don't know if you heard,
about that,
buddy.
yeah.
I'll write the alien stuff. I'll do a whole.
Let's do like a pulp magazine, just a filth. We'll just like write different articles. We'll just make it like a high strangeness porno mag.
Dude, we'll call it paranormal smut.
Yeah. Oh, I love this.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be right back with more Steve Berg and more Big Strange Vacation. All right. Hey, Steve.
Hey. Guys, what are you guys so mad at me again?
During the break, I found that other article that I just wanted to say about the Buga Sphere. I'm coming back to the Buga Sphere.
Oh, yes.
So this is from Metro magazine.
Where are you finding
this? Is a good big
everywhere I can. This is from Jessica Kwong from Metro magazine, and the team. She's saying that the team of scientists used AI to decipher symbols inscribed on the sphere, which they have likened to ancient scripts. Researchers have translated the symbols to read the origin of birth through union and energy in the cycle of transformation, meaning point of unity, expansion, and consciousness, individual consciousness. I think that's just a phrase. I don't even think
there you go. That clears it up.
They say we interpret it as a message to humanity, encouraging a collective shift in consciousness to help Mother Earth, especially considering the current issues with pollution and environmental decline. They said, still don't know who this team of scientists are, but I do know that they had there's a really funny, God, I gotta send this link now. There's a really funny photo. I'm going to throw this in here. I'll just throw it up in the Google Doc. There's a very funny photo. This is going to be under the other link I put up there of scientists in like hazmat suits studying the sphere. It's very fun.
This is the Metro link.
Researchers used AI to decipher symbols on the sphere, and it's them with like hazmat suits on, with like a Geiger.
Oh my God!
And the sphere on this like little Star Wars looking base.
Oh, it's so funny. That is the fakest thing. I could do a better job than that.
This is so fun. Guys, Buga Sphere is my number one story right now.
Photo also,
it is fantastic.
This photo is watermark copyrighted to Germany company.
Yeah, who are these Germany company friends?
It's on the level.
They said more testing is needed to establish its origin. So I'm going to keep you posted about the Buga Sphere all summer long. Buga Sphere is going to be my Wilson this summer. It's going to be me and the Buga Sphere on an island together, having fun.
Unite humanity.
Oh God, this is what we need, man.
Steve.
Yeah, baby.
We have a game.
I love games. Love games.
I got to pop over to the other dock here. We have a game that we like to play with all of our guests on the show. I am stalling for time while I copy and paste this into the real-time document so Riley can see what we're doing.
Wow, there it is.
This game, though, is a different game than the one we usually play.
Okay.
I'm going to run down a list of infamous places, rapid fire style. If you think that place is just an old place with no paranormal or strange activity, you're going to say history. But if you think something weird is going on, you're going to say mystery.
Oh, baby.
This is a special summer edition of BS or Believe It. We're calling history
or mystery.
Steve Berg.
Oh, Jesus. I'm so I should have stretched.
Ready, set,
always applies.
Stonehenge.
Mystery.
The Himalayas, home of our buddy, Yeti.
Oh, boy. I'm going to say mystery.
Roswell.
History.
The Bermuda Triangle.
History.
Easter Island.
Mystery.
The Tower of London.
History.
The Great Pyramid of Giza.
Mystery.
The Nazca Lines.
Mystery.
Loveland, Ohio, home of the Frogman.
Mystery, homie.
Loch Ness.
History, unfortunately. Although Aleister Crowley had a house there, so maybe mystery.
Transylvania.
History.
Area 51.
History.
The Island of Dead Dolls.
Oh. History, but I want it to be mystery.
Uluru, aka Ayers Rock.
I don't know about that.
In Ayers Rock, the giant rock in Australia. You know about this place.
No, I don't.
Okay, come back. Google it. Ayers Rock, Ayers. You've seen it a million times.
Ayers.
This was like big in the 90s. You guys don't know about Ayers Rock, aka Uluru?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Oh, right.
This is like an sacred Aboriginal site.
Okay, I'm gonna go with mystery.
A large sandstone monolith.
Yeah, I think
Beautiful.
it's like you know when they go into Dreamtime, like Ayers Rock or Uluru is like a gateway there.
It looks like what you would see in the astral plane for sure. I've seen that before.
All right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Let's go back. The Pine Barrens,
Oh, mystery.
the Pacific Northwest,
Mystery.
Bran Castle, aka Dracula's Castle.
History.
Circling back to Transylvania, put it in there twice.
Yeah,
Devil's
good question.
Tower.
Oh, history, but a beautiful history.
And finally, Los Angeles 2025.
Mystery.
Great job. I love it. Any place on that list that really you go, oof, I love this one. Or like this one really gets to me.
Well, because I have a fetish, maybe not the right word, maybe not the right word at all, but like I love folksy high strangeness. Do you know what I'm saying?
Taking notes for our Paranormal Fun magazine.
Loveland, Ohio is so up my alley. A frogman being seen like in rural countryside is like what I love. So
I'm kind of surprised, if I'm being honest, about Roswell and Area 51 getting slapped with history and not mystery. Now, why is that?
Yeah. I feel like there's, a pretty overwhelming evidence that all the stuff at Area 51 was drones being tested in the early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's zero compelling evidence to me that for either of them that there was any kind of thing anomalous. I think back then they were using it for, purposes of keeping things secret.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm no fun when it comes to a lot of the big famous UFO stories. And I hate that I'm like that now, but like, if I'm just being honest, like there's just no credible evidence at all.
But you are also the most fun about the most fun UFO stories.
That's exactly right.
Like the Socorro saucer.
I believe,
like Lonnie Zamora.
I think something 100% weird happened there.
Yeah, great. All right.
Yeah. So I mean, like I feel like I know there's something to the UFO phenomenon, but like I think anytime it comes from the military type thing, I have to just assume that it's BS.
Great. I love it. You know what? It's a sliding scale, everybody.
Yeah.
This is great.
I like
it's a
punk rock
spectrum.
UFOs, man.
Yeah.
If it's from the establishment, not
like
cool.
Beatles and the Stones, you guys. It's all right. I mean,
I you know what? I approve. I love it. Although I do think something was up with Roswell. Okay, everybody. When we come back, we are going to kick off our first destination in our big strange vacation.
the world tour.
Yeah, baby. It starts now. All right, Club Scouts, it's time for this week's installment of High Strangeness and the first destination in our big strange vacation. Oh, baby, we're going to the granddaddy of mysterious places today. This is a big kickoff. And let me tell you boys something. I have been watching so many YouTube videos about archaeological digs and Neolithic Britain. I don't know how I'm going to retain any of this information or get it all into one segment, but I'm going to do my best. I got a lot to talk about here, so I'm going to streamline it a little bit.
Okay.
Here we go. On Salisbury Plain in Wiltshire, England, roughly 130 kilometers, yes, I'm talking in kilometers this episode, not miles, from London, stands Britain's largest megalithic stone circle. The place is a realm of mystery that has captivated the imagination of archaeologists, mystics, occultists, and tourists for centuries. Was this site a pagan ritual hub? A portal to another realm? An ancient alien stargate? Just a bunch of big rocks? While we may not provide definitive answers, we can probably rule out a few of these theories. Club Scouts of all timelines, we are kicking off Big Strange Vacation with Stonehenge. I do want to make a little annotation by saying that Stonehenge is like the biggest rocks It's not actually the biggest stone circle. I think that goes to the Avery stone circle, which is just like smaller rocks, but much larger circumference of a stone circle. So there's some, I have to put it into context, I guess.
Good to know.
I'd like to start with Riley. What do you know about Stonehenge?
I mean, the thing that comes to mind is that Tenny told me that they put it back up again, which truly blew my mind, and I did not know, and I feel like no one knows, or maybe no one told me. Other than that, I think about like druids, heavy metal, that bit in Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Well, I'm gonna say this. I'm not gonna actually Johnny L. Tenney. However, from doing my own research, I did not find a time, and I could be wrong, where all of the stones were on the ground.
Okay.
There have been periods in the early 1900s and then up again in the 30s and 40s and 50s where restoration was done.
Okay.
And where they had reassembled a couple of the stone structures, but I don't think there was ever a point, because there are also like paintings throughout history where the stones are still standing most of the time. So
That's
it wasn't
good
like
to know. So it was never just a pile of rocks.
It was never just a pile of rocks.
Okay.
But but yes, they have done some restoration on it, and in some cases they've actually gone in and like put in concrete support beams under some of the stones or in the stones to make sure that they don't fall over, or so it's been messed with. It's definitely been messed with.
Okay. That's,
now,
you know what? That's nice to know. That's
yeah.
nice to
So
know.
I think John's point still stands, because it has been fucked with.
I did not know that.
See,
Yeah.
nobody knows.
Yeah.
But they fuck with it. No one changed its original layout. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's not like now ancient Britons did. The ancient people rearranged it multiple times, which we're going to find out. But nobody in the modern era has been like, you know what? I think this would look better over here and do it that way. You know what I mean?
I'm so surprised, honestly. Like, I feel like we just do that stuff. It's not convenient here.
I know. I agree too. So let's get into I wanted to ask you another question. Have either of you ever been to Stonehenge?
Sadly, no.
The last time I was in England, I had a big plan to, but like it was kind of inconvenient. It's kind of like, I don't think it's like super convenient to get there.
See, we should move it.
Yeah.
Inconvenient.
Move it over here.
Put
Let's
it in
get it a few
Piccadilly.
kilometers closer to London.
I went when I was in the 6th grade.
What?
And I've got a photo somewhere. If I can find it, I'll put it up.
Oh.
But I was very disappointed that we could not at that point. This would have been 1991, maybe summer of 91. You could not get up and walk around in and amongst the stone circle like you could for a long time. Eventually there was so much graffiti and so many stones being like rocks and things being taken from the site that they basically had to rope it off.
Yeah.
So, people jump the rope and go in there all the time, I think. But as a kid, I was bummed because I thought it was going to be like that scene from European Vacation when Chevy Chase drives right up to it and then knocks it over when he backs up the station wagon or the little European car. But alas, it was not. So I was very bummed. I thought I was going to get to run around in it and maybe vanish into another realm, but didn't happen.
But was it awesome to see in person?
It was awesome. Yeah. I love it. And especially now, after reading up on it, I want to go back. And I think I love this place more than ever. And I particularly love some of the people, specifically one archaeologist that we're going to talk to, an anthropologist that is working on this site. I'm like, this is so fucking cool. This is true. Like, oh, maybe Stonehenge is going to be like my version of like a dad's Civil War, fascination. Like,
this is
going to be my. I think this might be my World War II. Like it is. Yeah. I have to apologize, everybody. This is like a nerdy ass subject. Let's begin.
Yeah. You're the Stonehenge guy.
I'm the Stonehenge guy now. So I'm just going to say, much like the Neolithic engineers who somehow transported multiple 1-ton plus bluestones from Wales to England, I may have a bit of a heavy load to carry in this segment. There is so much Stonehenge stuff out there, and there's no way to cram it all into one BCC Clubhouse session. So consider this not so much a deep dive, but a Stonehenge primer from your new Stonehenge guy, if you will. A snapshot of Stonehenge's history and some of the more compelling theories that about what it is. Now, I believe there's a very good indication of what it might have been, and I'd like to point all of our listeners to the work of Mike Parker Pearson, an archaeologist from London City College who is part Indiana Jones and part Hagrid. This guy is awesome. I love him. He's the most gentle, soft-spoken man in the world, and I feel like he's really doing some amazing work. And he was one of the heads of what's called the Stonehenge Riverside Project, and they started doing excavations not just at Stonehenge, but all around the area of Salisbury Plain and all around Wiltshire, that beginning in like mid-2000s and has continued in certain forms up for the last 2 decades. He has spent the last 20 plus years conducting one of the largest and most thorough archaeological studies of Stonehenge in history to uncover its purpose and discover more clues about its origins. A primary source for this episode is his book, Stonehenge, A New Understanding by Mike Parker Pearson. It's pretty cover too. Lots of archaeological stuff in this. Also, because there's so much to cover, I'm eschewing my usual scripted story of high strangeness in favor of a more conversational approach to the topic. I took notes and I'm going to share them. That being said, there is no way I am going to pass up the opportunity for Riley to compose a cool Stonehenge cosmic track. So, to the Beast of Bray studio, I say, plug in that keyboard. Here comes a scripted bit that will go great with some pagan synth waves.
Most
or however,
excellent.
However you
Most
visualize it.
Mm.
Stonehenge. An Old English legend claims that the megalithic stone circle was built by the wizard Merlin in the 5th century during a time of great strife when Britons were at war with the Saxons. According to a 12th century text by Geoffrey of Monmouth, a truce was called on the Salisbury Plain, where Briton chieftains and Saxon invaders would parley and agree upon a peace treaty. However, the Saxon warriors betrayed the Britons, stabbing and killing all of the chieftains. Their invasion continued until an exiled prince named Aurelius Ambrosius and his brother Uther Pendragon, father of King Arthur, returned from exile in France and won a major victory against the Saxons. I don't know about you guys, but I have fucking chills right now.
I'm loving this. You said Uther Pendragon, and I stood
Hell
up in my
yeah.
chair.
I'm
Like,
in.
okay,
Dude, that, you know what? What is it? The Buga Sphere? It just hatched. It just hatched right now.
You spoke the magic word.
After this victory, Aurelius Ambrosius wanted to build a monument to honor the slain chieftains on Salisbury Plain. Merlin recounted a tale of a large stone circle built by giants in Ireland called the Giants' Dance. Ambrosius commissioned Merlin to travel west and bring back the stones, known as the Blue Stones, to erect his monument to the fallen chieftains. In some versions of the legend, Merlin used magic to teleport the Blue Stones from Ireland to England. In others, his ingenious mind crafted cutting-edge engineering to transport them by land and sea to his homeland. Either way, the Blue Stones, erected by giants in the west, made their way to the Salisbury Plain, where they became part of Stonehenge. The legend also claims that Ambrosius Aurelius and Uther Pendragon were buried there. As incredible as this story is, it is, sadly, not an accurate telling of how Stonehenge was built. However, certain clues in the story do tie into actual history. For one, Stonehenge's blue stones do come from the west, not Ireland, but Wales, specifically in the Preseli Hills, the only location where that type of stone is found in the entire UK. Recent discoveries suggest that the blue stones used at Stonehenge actually came much like in the old legend from a pre-existing stone circle at the Wine in Wales. However, Stonehenge was erected much, much earlier than the 5th century. Its origins date back to the Neolithic age. It's thought that the blue stones, the original stones at Stonehenge, were erected around 3000 BC. Now, according to Mike Parker Pearson, little side note, they still use BC and not CE in archaeology in England. So I'm going to stay with that for this presentation. So the blue stones were erected around 3000 BC, while the sarsen stones, the big stones that are in the what they call the trilithons, that look like the big doorways, those massive 13-foot stones forming the outer circle and inner horseshoe were added between 2500 and 2000 BC, so almost 500 or even 1,000 years later. Much like my American landmark, Disneyland, Stonehenge was a long-term work in progress that was always evolving and always changing. Of course, there are alternative theories about Stonehenge's origins that have forever tied this mysterious site to extraterrestrials. In his book, Chariots of the Gods, author Eric von Daniken postulated that many giant monuments like Stonehenge and the pyramids were built by aliens. Chariots was the book that launched the ancient alien hypothesis back in 1968, and as cool as it is to speculate about the possibility of the circle being the ruins of an old Stargate or the base of a UFO landing pad, I think what archaeology has discovered is weirdly way more fascinating. Now, that's not to rob Stonehenge of its mysticism, because we will discuss that. But Stonehenge is actually just one of a larger network of stone circles and ancient wooden megaliths in the area, suggesting that it was not a solitary destination, but part of a much larger, more complex symbolic body. And while I'm pretty sure aliens have nothing to do with Stonehenge's origins or purpose, I'm never gonna fully discount the Fae when it comes to stone circles. There is also New Age theories claiming Stonehenge sits upon a major crossroads of ley lines, making it an energy epicenter. Now, ley lines are imaginary lines that are magic and move from points on the map to other points on the map of special places like the pyramids and Stonehenge. According to a cool website I found, Stonehenge is believed to be the epicenter of Earth energy, with as many as 14 ley lines converging on the site. Ley lines are powerful channels of energy that connect places of ancient and primordial significance all across the country. This powerful, almost gravitational energy this site emits could explain why our ancestors transported some stones 160 miles from South Wales. Now, gentlemen, let us begin our real in-depth historical look at Stonehenge. I do think this is a good place to pause, though, and talk about the ancient alien hypothesis here. Now, Steve, you know, we get a lot of this stuff. With the ancient aliens, Stonehenge being like a Stargate, what do you think about all this stuff?
I mean, they're fun stories, you know, but I don't see a whole lot of credibility in Van Daniken's work and a lot of, Giorgio Tsoukalos and stuff like that. I mean, I understand the appeal of it. I love folklore and stories. And what do I know? I'm not an expert, but it's not something I think has much credibility.
I'm with you there. In fact, after watching reading this book and watching a bunch of YouTube videos, to then hop over to Ancient Aliens and for them to be like, this whole place used to be a spaceport. You're like, oh no, what are we doing here, everybody?
And that just, but it's because sometimes I get annoyed because if there's no reason to fabricate anything from this area, because Wales and this whole part of England has a crazy history of high strangeness and UFO flaps.
Yes.
That are, I think, actually have validity to them. So to make up anything new is there's no point to it because it's already so weird as it is,
Yeah. Super, super weird.
Yeah.
Riley, do you have any questions at this point?
No, but I tend to agree with the ancient alien stuff. I think it's a little bit of it also it devalues these human accomplishments,
Now-
in a lot.
Yeah,
It's sort of,
I'm
it's
with
almost
you on
like
that.
moon landing talk in a way, where it's like,
Mhm.
people
Yeah.
built this stuff.
Yes,
Although
no.
it is fun to think that the Egyptians had these sky people. I mean, it's cool.
Yeah, what's not cool about that?
Undeniably
Yeah.
cool.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, it's bad. I mean, listen,
You don't
would
get
it be more
17
fun?
seasons on the History Channel or whatever. If it's
Yeah.
not
Would it be
cool.
more fun? Yes. Would I like to live in a Star Wars galaxy?
Of
Yes.
course.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it possible? Sure.
Sure.
Do I believe in UFOs and aliens? Yes, I do.
Yes.
But I think specifically when it comes to Stonehenge, that's not what we're dealing with here. And in fact, I will say the cool thing is that really seems to come up with this, with the latest research, is that the Neolithic people were way more advanced and possibly had way better, like, and by better, I mean like more sophisticated systems of communication and politics than they were ever given credit for. So in fact, it's kind of like, no. They were really intelligent for where they were in development of society and culture. And in fact, maybe way more so than we originally thought.
Right. And I will also, just to add really quick to that, like I am open to the idea that speaking of the Egyptians and the people who built Stonehenge, that perhaps they were using some form of what we would consider magic to construct these things and move objects. Like I'm open to that, like for sure, that there was some human form of conjuring some kind of energy or power that was helping them.
Let me tell you, it's all engineering. I really think it's all, there's like, and a lot of people have reconstructed, like, how do they get this thing here? Well, they can use A-frame pulley systems, which they had during Neolithic times. They would also, to raise the capstones, the lintels, the bridge, the two sarsen stones to make the trilithons, they would basically like keep sliding boards under these things until they got higher and higher and then could level it onto the stone. They had really ingenious ways of doing this. Now, there's still mystery. Not all of this stuff has been solved. I'm not saying that, but let's get into it. Okay. So this is more of the conversational portion of the segment. So Stonehenge itself is located in Salisbury Plain. And one of the things that I was surprised to learn was that the Stonehenge is not the stone circle. The henge refers to, a henge is one of three related types of Neolithic earthworks featuring a ring-shaped bank and ditch with the ditch inside the bank. So it's a earth formation, a man-made earth formation that is basically like a little bowl in the earth. So that's the henge. There is literally a ring of earth around the stone, and the stone monuments sit inside of that, also forming a ring. So that was the first thing that I learned.
That's interesting.
Did not know that.
Yeah, and they're not made for defense. They're basically they're not built to keep things out. They're built to keep things in. They're inclusive. So they know that they weren't built as like a fortress or anything, because it could be easily penetrated. So the sarsen stones, which are those big 13-foot stones, those originate from England, and they form a horseshoe in the center circle and then an outer circle of the rings. Now, a lot of these have fallen down, and those are the ones, like I said, that when you look at Stonehenge and when you think of Stonehenge, they look like the doorways or the archways. Those rocks, which are extremely big and extremely heavy, came from England in a location that was about 20 miles north of its position in the Salisbury Plain. So it would have been very difficult to even get them there, because this area of England is very hilly, and there are like lots of bogs and narrow valleys and stuff. But they've basically decided that how they ended up transporting these things. Now, there's this idea that they were all set on like log rollers, and you'd roll it along, basically building the tracks as you go, moving the back roller to the front roller and rolling them along.
Yeah.
But there's these cool guys that do basically Neolithic technology where they rebuild things using only what they would have had access to at the time. Now, in Neolithic times, they're using antlers and stone axes to chip away at stone. They don't have proper tools yet. People are not using metal. They don't have the wheel yet. And they have demonstrated that all of this stuff would have been possible. It would have taken a long time and some manpower by dragging these stones along, including the stones that came from Wales, which we'll get into, using sleds and people pulling heavy sleds. They did it. They did a demonstration with it with like school kids and showed that like kids could make these sleds move with 1-ton rocks on them. So it would have been possible for them to bring them back from Wales using sleds and bring them down. So it's not impossible to move these big heavy things. It would have taken time. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that I've learned is like these people kind of had nothing but time. Like things were moving slowly. This was a generational project. This project could have taken hundreds of years. It would have been like my dad picked up where his dad left off and his dad left off. And so in a way, this was not something that was like built in a day. It was an ongoing project that took hundreds of years.
I'm a 4th generation sled puller.
That's right. Well, yeah, the sled pulling. I don't know how long that would have taken, but it's pretty wild. So
do you think they were like the original sort of like CrossFit bros?
Yes.
The other dudes were like, oh my God.
Personal best.
I mean, they would have been jacked. I mean, but I'm just saying like all you had to do basically back then, now this is obviously very reductive, but it's like, you're just banging on rocks. Like you're banging rocks on other rocks. Yeah, you have time.
Berries,
yeah, you're right.
Milk.
Yeah, there was farming back then. They don't know exactly when farming came to ancient England in prehistory, but it would have come from Mesopotamia. It would have come from the Middle East, migrated through Europe, and eventually come up to the UK. So to put all of this in context, around the time that the original stone circle is being built with the blue stones from Wales, like writing had been invented yet. That was happening in Mesopotamia at this time.
Crazy.
So we're talking like, 3,000 years before the Common Era. So the sarsen stones form the trilithons, which are those doorway looking things. And they would connect kind of the way that Legos work, where they have the tops of the stones, they would carve in pegs, and then the lintels, the cross stones, had sockets, and they would plug them down onto the tops of these sarsen stones to hold them in place. And the archaeologists said you can see places where with the fallen lintels where the engineers fucked up the first time and mismeasured, but then would fix it. So there's like sometimes you can see like, oh, they fucked it up, like, and they had to recarve a peg in one of, or recarve a socket in one of the stones.
Hey, what a great tidbit! Yeah.
And the other cool thing that they've learned is that the sarsen stones used to encompass the entire ring with lintels all the way around, and that there was a curvature, an intended, mathed out, engineered curvature to the top of the rim of the outer ring. So they weren't just like blocky, pixelated circles. They were actually angled to make a circle at the top, which is also like pretty advanced for the time.
That's cool. Yeah.
Amazing.
So the blue stones came from Wales and Preseli Hills, and those were the original stones. And when they were first brought down from Wales, they basically outlined the inside of the larger henge. Okay. And at some point, probably when the sarsen stones were erected 500 years later, they moved those blue stones from the outer edge of the henge inside the circle of sarsen stones. So they had been picked up and relocated, and those holes left what are called the Aubrey holes that are named after an old archaeologist, basically. And what they discovered over time was that there were cremains and human remains buried mostly cremains, because they mostly cremated people back at this time, buried in those Aubrey, what they call the Aubrey holes. So those became burial sites, and that's important for something we're going to get into later. The other thing that we need to remember is that Stonehenge was built on an axis that focused on the midsummer and midwinter's sun. So there's a lot of cool math and geometry that's too complex for me on the way that all of this is laid out. However, people like to say, oh, it's mapping out the stars, it's a stargate. When you really break it down, although there is some, like, again, some really cool stuff and really good geometry and smart math that's built into all of this, really the monument tends to just focus on the midsummer sunset and the midwinter and midsummer moons and the midwinter sunset. That's really where the focal points are. And one of the entrances to the stone circle would have, because our axis on Earth wobbles a little bit, so it's not perfect, but back then it would have been dead centered through, the way that the stones were lined up. You would have this beautiful, perfect window where you could watch the midsummer sun set on the horizon through a frame of stone. And that there's another big stones that are outside of the circle towards the entrance of the henge. There's one left called the heel stone, and they have figured out that there used to be two, and that would have been probably a big stone gateway into Stonehenge, an entrance point. And there are other rocks that are outside of the Stonehenge circle as well that were planted around, and they line up with certain positions with the sun and the moon on the horizon and stuff like that.
So it sounds like it's a calendar.
It uses the calendar. It was a way for
they
them.
Figured out, like they're like, this is when the harvest happens.
Yes, they have figured
big moments.
Yeah,
we gotta count these. We're going in a circle here.
Yes, so it was basically it was, but I don't think they used it necessarily as a calendar throughout the year. And what Mike Parker Pearson has pointed out, that because the focal points are about midsummer and midwinter, they can begin to figure out, well, why was that so special with this circle in particular? And we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Ooh.
So the timeline is this starts being built in Neolithic England. And around this time, they believe that England is populated by Neolithic tribes. They can farm, they can trade, they can hunt, they can gather, all that stuff. But there are tribes that are in communication with other tribes. But for a while, everyone thought they were kind of nomadic and kind of didn't settle down and may not have known everyone in the, you know what I mean? They may not have had like long distance communication or connection with other tribes. It was a little bit more random. Now attitudes are changing to think actually tribes from Wales, new tribes from England, and new tribes all the way up in Scotland, and may have been working towards unifying the tribes even back then. And that Stonehenge was part of a larger monument to build a unification of tribes in Neolithic England. Ooh. Around certain times of the year. I kind of like when you look at pictures of them, if you watch Game of Thrones, like they kind of all look like the wildlings north of the wall. They're all in furs, but they have, they don't have the sword. They don't have metal, so they don't have like cool metal swords, but they kind of look like that. Stone axes. Like this is the end of the Stone Age, the Neolithic period. So 3000 BC, the blue stones are transported from Wales. In 2500 BC, the Saracen stones are brought in and erected, and the blue stones are moved into the inner circle. The blue stones, they think, were brought either people from England went there, sought them out, and brought them back down. And one of the old theories was they carried them from the Priscilla Hills down to the sea and floated them in the, sailed them into the ocean, into the inland of England, where they then transported them by land to get them to Salisbury Hill. However, when they've tried to recreate experiments of floating heavy stones on what they thought was the boat technology at the time, it would always sink. So now there's a new theory that they actually brought them by sled through a natural valley from Wales, 160 miles all the way down to Salisbury Plain. And in fact, one of the major, I think it's the A40 freeway, is basically following the same route that they would have used back then. And what's so cool is that Mike Parker Pearson recently was like, I want to see if I can find exactly where in Wales the bluestones came from. And he and his team were able to locate literally the hillside. You could see still today where where they had chipped the stone out of the mountains, and he could walk through and they could find through archaeological digs. Oh, they cut them here. They would go down this ramp, and then they would load them down here at the base of the hill. And the thing that they discovered when they found the original location is that the carbon dating, the radioactive carbon dating on these stones, were the ones that had been cut and were left behind, were 300 or 400 years older. They date back to like 3400 BC. So he went, well, why? What happened? Because they didn't take 400 years to get down to England. And he started to go, well, wait a minute. The old stories would talk about that there used to be another stone circle called the Giant's Dance. And he goes, I think there might have been another stone circle around here. And through trials and tribulations, they actually found the location of an old abandoned stone circle where the pits where these stones were set in still exist today.
Wow.
And
so just so I'm following correctly, he
Yes.
thinks they took these stones and relocated them to Stonehenge.
yes. So
So they can do it to London to make
they
it more
could do
convenient.
Yeah.
There we
exactly.
go.
Bring them here.
Third time's the charm.
Bring it in.
So now they think that maybe the people who built Stonehenge were Welsh settlers that moved down to the Salisbury Plain and brought this monument with them when they relocated. So instead of English people going up and bringing it back down, they just brought these down with them as they migrated down into central UK, basically. And so they brought their custom with them. They brought this monolith with them. And then over time, it turned into Stonehenge.
Amazing.
Now, during the Bronze Age activity, eventually what happens is like construction and evolution of Stonehenge just stops. And during the Bronze Age, when people are starting to use metal and the Romans start to come in and they are populating and taking over the UK and they're killing off the Druids and all the Celts and they're mixing, we're all mixing DNA, that Stonehenge doesn't really seem to be used for anything because through the digs, they kind of see a place where, oh, we have all the original pottery from Neolithic times and cremains and stuff around this area. And then there's like a big gap where we don't see, basically by what we've archaeological findings, that anyone was really using this space until the Romans were around. They found like Roman pottery in that area. So they might have been using it as like a camping place, or the Romans might have just been like, this is cool, and they're hanging out there. But there doesn't seem to be any like ritual use taking place during like, we're talking like 56, 57, AD at this point, or BC. Then in the Iron Age, the Saxons come in and they start using this location again. The thing that everyone always talks about is that the Druids were connected with Stonehenge. And this is actually a bit apocryphal. There was a moment in the 18th century when people began getting interested in the Druid culture. That were these alleged ancient Celtic priests and wise men that lived in the woods in the groves. And a lot of the Druids were killed off or enslaved, and a lot of their groves were burned down by the Romans. But there was a Druid revival in the 18th century in England where people were like, wait, what's this cool? It's kind of like when we get into like new age shit and we're like, what's tarot cards? Those are fun. Like there was this moment, I think people were starting to get bored with the like uptight Western Christian society in England in the late 1700s and early 1800s. And they start to go, what's all this? What used to be here? What were people into? What's up with all these druids? And there was a guy named William Stuckley, I believe. Let me make sure that I'm getting his name right. I know his last name's Stuckley, but he was very interested in Stonehenge. He did some of the first early excavations of the area and studies of the area. And he's basically the guy that says, I think the Druids used this for their magic rituals. And that's basically where the connection of Stonehenge and Druids began and has lasted to this day. But there is absolutely no archaeological evidence, and nowhere in classical text does it say that the Druids were using Stonehenge for any purposes of pagan worship or anything like that at all.
Oh.
Well,
dang.
There's the.
I know. It says Stuckley was. I'm going to read this passage from the book Stonehenge: A New Understanding. It says. Paganism is an umbrella term that include Druids, witches, Wiccans, shamans, and other belief groups. In 2001 UK census, 30,569 people recorded themselves as pagans and 1,657 as Druids. I'm bringing up this note only because he also notes that some 390,000 people said that they were Jedi Knights in the same census. So he talks about, by strange quirk of history, one of modern Druidy's progenitors was William Stuckley, the antiquarian who did so much research on Stonehenge in the early 18th century. Stuckley invented his own order of Druids. He was a clever man with very little to work on. He was able to deduce that Stonehenge had been built before Romans arrived, because there were other people who thought that maybe the Romans built this. They couldn't figure it out. His best available guide to life in prehistoric Britain was Julius Caesar's account of his invasion in 55 and 54 BC. In Caesar's time, the religious specialists of the ancient Britons were called Druids. In the Latin, we translate as Druids. So Stuckley reasoned that if Stonehenge was a pre-Roman temple, it must have had something to do with Druids. The logic was faultless, except that obviously Stuckley had no idea that Stonehenge was built 3,000 to 2,500 years before Caesar's Druids ever existed. That is more remote in time from Caesar than Caesar is from us today. Which is also wild to think about. Wow. Caesar is more recent to us than Stonehenge was to Caesar in his time. Is there any evidence that the traditions of Iron Age Druids went back thousands of years into British prehistory? It is exceedingly unlikely, and all the archaeological and documentary evidence points to them being no more ancient than the late Bronze Age at best. So. No Druids in Stonehenge.
All the history I learned from Spinal Tap is wrong.
Yeah,
it's all wrong.
I know.
Where the demons dwell
and the children of Stonehenge.
So what is all of this then? So what was it? And there's this really cool theory that I love, and this is what I find fascinating, that Stonehenge was a place where people from all over the UK would bring the cremains and remains of their dead loved ones. And they would do a big annual summer celebration to send their dead loved ones into the Hall of the Ancestors, into the afterlife. And Mike Parker Pearson is basically the one that is running with this, not running with this theory, is kind of showing that this is probably likely, because there are other big stone circles and wooden circles in the area. And one of them is this place called Darrington Walls. Let me double check that I'm making sure that I'm saying this right. Always got to check my stuff real time. But, it's Darrington. It is Darrington Wells. So no, everybody join me on my Google adventure. It's Darrington Walls. Darrington Walls. Durringt.
Got it.
So Darrington Walls is this massive henge that they have not, they more recently discovered. And there's like modern development over this thing. This thing was huge. It's like super, super expansive. You could put multiple football fields in this thing. It was like a big mound henge, basically the size of a small town. And they have discovered that there were houses outside of the henge, huts, old Neolithic huts, that there were there was an avenue running from this henge down to the River Avon. And this is northeast of Stonehenge. It's in the same neighborhood. It's just up the River Avon from there. And there were all sorts of, there was a massive wood monolith where they're just basically circles of logs that would have looked like a recreated forest, and they might have been decorated with banners. They may have been decorated with animal skins or bones. We don't know, but we just know that these giant wooden structures once stood there because they can find all the pits and all of this stuff for it. And there's
that settlement was stood for 500 years.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, and nearby Durrington Walls is Woodhenge, which is another wooden megalith structure. So basically, what they've figured out is that Durrington Walls was kind of this massive hotspot where people would come. It's kind of like a religious Coachella in some ways. They have found like burial pits with like old pots where they can literally through chemical testing like figure out what type of animal fats were in the pots and what people were cooking. There was a lot of like pig and they've been able to figure out that like people probably like had, it was basically like a big Renaissance festival but the Neolithic version.
Awesome.
And so they also discovered, the big discovery that Mike Parker Pearson made was that there was an avenue that would have been lined with other pillars leading from Durrington Walls down to the River Avon. And then the River Avon reconnects with an avenue from its banks up to Stonehenge. So what he thinks it was people would come on the summer solstice in midsummer and bring from all over the UK the remains of their loved ones. They would have a giant gathering at Durrington Walls, and that the wood represented the living because wood decays, wood dies with time, but stone lasts longer. Stone lasts lasts for a long time, like the ancestors. And so that this whole site was a place to come and remember the dead, and then literally get on boats or walk down river or pour their ashes into the river down to Stonehenge, which was the realm of the dead and the realm of the ancestors. And they'd probably watch the midsummer sun set through the stones, and they would honor their dead and bury the cremains in and around Stonehenge. So there was all part of this larger symbolic network of the transition from life into death. And that it's not just Stonehenge itself, but it's part of this bigger structure. And they've also found recently all of these huge pits that they dug out. So there was a lot of activity happening in this area that seemed to have a lot of symbolic representation about life and death.
I had no idea. This is amazing.
It's awesome. And I'm obviously paraphrasing a lot of this and remembering this shit off the top of my dome. But I mean, there's like so much shit that they've discovered that supports this.
Can I ask you a really quick question?
Yeah.
Does MPP Michael, what's his face?
Mike Parker Pearson.
Yeah. Does he have like, is there like a book that he wrote is like the one?
This is the one, Stonehenge.
That's the one.
A New Understanding. Now, this is written back in 2009, so there's been a lot more progress that supports the stuff that he wrote that has happened since,
I'm getting that book.
Including the discovery that the bluestones came from another circle. That's just been within like the last 2 or 3 years. Now, something that he didn't know that somebody else discovered is that there's a big stone laying on its side in the middle of Stonehenge that's called the altar stone. And they have recently discovered that stone came they used to think came along with the blue stones from Wales, but they've figured out through carbon dating and looking at the structure of this rock, it actually comes from like one of the most northern tips of Scotland. And so that there were tribes up in Scotland that carried a massive rock all the way down to Salisbury Plain. And the idea that you have stones from England, stones from Wales, and a massive stone from Scotland further supports that this place might have also represented a place kind of like in the old thing of like they wanted to have a peace treaty at Stonehenge and the stories of Uther Pendragon and Aurelius Ambrosius, that this might have also been a monument to unify and recognize all the tribes of Great Britain in this era, in the Neolithic era. And that also says that their communication systems in terms of like networking were so much more sophisticated, and they were so much more organized, and their politics would have been so much more advanced than we would have ever given them credit for. And it's all because they can track where these fucking huge rocks came from. And there's no indication too that, and I was like, well, what if they came down on glaciers? And they've thought about that, and they've basically been able to say that's not what happened, that these were moved here by people. Wow. So it must have been so important and so symbolic for them to make these massive journeys with these heavy fucking rocks to build this place. And so I think for hundreds and hundreds of years, it was this symbolic place of unity and where people came to honor the dead and send their loved ones off into the afterlife.
This is fantastic research, man.
It's cool stuff. It's really cool stuff.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but do you know there is a Stonehenge monument or Stonehenge-esque monument in Nebraska called Carhenge?
Oh, you better believe I do, buddy. Carhenge, I at some point in the summer, I wanted to talk about like the weird roadside places, and Carhenge is at the top of that list.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so that is the primer on Stonehenge. That's basically, I think this guy's kind of figuring out, not single-handedly, it's obviously taking teams and teams of people and scientists and anthropologists and archaeologists to figure all this stuff out. But I think we kind of have an understanding of when it was built, how it was built, and why it was built. And that's the other thing that I didn't even get into. They were able to, using technology at the time, there were ways to lift these things, to dig pits, plant them into the stones, raise the stones. They did not have cranes yet. So to call back a mistake that Riley and I made, they didn't have cranes, but they had ways to raise these stones up high using slatted boards that would basically just gradually lift them into the air, stacking boards underneath them one kind of, level at a time. And that's how they would basically like Neolithic scaffolding, raising the stones up into the to the tops of the sarsen stones. So that's it. Stonehenge.
God, I loved. I mean, like that was like all new to me. I'll be honest. Like,
I didn't really know.
This is the thing, and like this information is just waiting for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's so fucking. This is why I like. So after I read all this shit and was watching all this stuff with all these specials on BBC about archaeological digs, and a lot of this is pretty dry, but it's all really, really interesting and fascinating. I turn on Ancient Aliens to be like, okay, let's see the other perspective. And you're just like, no, this is literally, I feel guilty saying, I was like laughing out loud at it. It was, I was like, this is so stupid. This is so stupid when the answers are like right there and they're a real scientist figuring it out. And it's fucking mind-blowingly cool.
Well, the replications too. Like, that's kind of, case closed on all the, like a lot of the stuff, the narratives that we all know of.
And
like
the thing is,
cultural center where it's like marks like religious certain or whatever, life and death, religious practice, and then also like measures time and the year and is a social gathering point.
Yep,
like
there are markets, there are homes,
cool.
There's like all this stuff. They're like they think that there's archaeological evidence or anthropological evidence that like they would have like wild boar games where they would like let pigs out and the men would shoot them with arrows and then they would cook them, that there was like festivities happening, that this was like an early Neolithic midsummer celebration, and and they built all of these structures to achieve all that. It is kind of like a Disneyland in a way. You know what I mean?
But also, it really does make me think. You've mentioned Coachella, but it makes me think of like the modern times version of that are these summer festivals where we build
Burning
these
Man,
big structures and then sort of have these ritual events, and they mark the year, the spring and the summer and all that.
And some of it is erected temporarily, and then other parts of it are built to last, so you can come back year after year, or generation after generation to do it with the next generation, and bring your family and bring everybody there. I just think this is so cool. I love this stuff, and I wish it were aliens, but I do think though that this appeases the alternate history people too, because it's like, we just weren't as dumb as people thought back then. You know what I mean? Right? It's a lot of the like modern snobbery looking back and being like, they're not capable of that. Well, they were, and they had to figure it out in ways that we you know what I mean? That we can't even fathom, because they didn't have access to any of the technology that we have today. Right. It's crazy. Right. So they had to do it.
I thought about that too, because it's like their brains wouldn't be fundamentally that much different. They don't have the knowledge and technology to build upon, but like on an evolutionary scale, the brain, I would think, maybe I'm wrong, but hasn't changed that much.
I don't think so. Yeah. I don't
think like if we just, the three of us just were sitting there and we didn't have language and we just had like rocks and antlers, like we'd probably build a Stonehenge.
Well, and they had language, but they didn't have writing. They didn't have written language yet.
Okay, even better. Yeah.
But dude, I'll find a link of these like fucking cool ass guys that like make all this Neolithic technology and show you how it's done.
Sounds like,
and it's all just like they did everything with fucking antlers and stone axes, and then they figured out how to like build a sled and like carve a hole into opposite ends of a trunk and slide it into place, and then insert a peg to put it there. And like it's basically Flintstones technology without wheels, and a little guy, a little dinosaur under the kitchen sink saying it's living. But it looks very bedrockian, but you're just like, oh my God, these people are so fucking smart.
Yeah, and they may have looked at the natural world in such a different way than us, where everything they were looking at is like, how can we use it as a tool? How can we use that to build something? We're just like not thinking that. So, it's interesting.
They didn't have like, it was all stone tools, and it was all stuff where like they would just smooth out a piece of rock and use it as a way to chip, or would hammer that little smoothed out flint they like insert it into an antler and use the antler and the head of it as an axe, and the axes were also kind of like hammers. It's just fucking cool, and it's so smart. Cool. It's so ingenious. And you do, watching you do go, gosh, why did it take so long for people to figure out the wheel? But you know what I mean?
They're making hinges.
They're making hinges.
They're busy.
I know. They suddenly went, wait a minute, if we tip this hinge on its side and we can figure out a way to roll this thing. But there's also like, this is so much, the math involved is like so long before Pythagoras. They're figuring out all the shit with angles and lining it up. And they think that Salisbury Plain, because they keep going, why this place? It had a really good view of the horizon and a good position for the summer sun and the midsummer sun and the midwinter sun, that they were like, okay, this is a good spot because we can get both of those points on the horizon here if we need it.
We should get back into this as a society.
I was thinking the same thing. I think this would be like a group project like this that spans multi-generations.
Yeah, rocks from every continent to form a great...
I'm with you.
So much long-term thinking too for people that probably only live to be in their mid-20s. The idea, I think it's also such a sophisticated thing to build something that is going to not only outlive you, but won't even be done or completed within your lifetime.
Yeah.
Says something about that culture and their idea that real permanence isn't in this life, but in the afterlife.
Well
or in the collective life.
Or in the collective life. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And that is something that I think we absolutely lack in, certainly here in the States, in modern society. We're not thinking long-term at all, or our long-term collective, buy.
It's like, get yours now.
Yeah, get your bag and get out.
Yeah.
That's it. We're building a henge.
We're building a henge.
I'm down.
We gotta do it, man.
Yeah. We gotta get like feral outfits though. Like, there's gonna be good outfits for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Anyway,
step one.
I encourage everybody to go look this shit up. It's really fun. It's all on YouTube. You can find it easily. Go read this book. It's awesome.
That was so great.
Yeah,
thanks,
cool.
buddy. All right, when we come back, we'll have a little collector's corner and make some more plans to build this Stonehenge. Let's go, boys. Okay. Steve, it's been so wonderful having you on this episode.
Buddy. It's been such a pleasure.
We are running a little long, so we're going to skip right ahead into Collector's Corner. Do you have anything to plug? And do you have anything that you're watching, consuming, listening to that's really got your attention right now?
Okay. Boy, I'm really doing a great job here.
It's okay.
On the spot.
I learned how to play Hybrid Moments by the Misfits last night, like at 1 a.m. after I'd had some tequila shots.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
I did a stand-up last night and then, got a little tipsy, and then I came up like, I'm going to learn how to play Hybrid Moments.
There you
It's
go.
actually a harder song than one would think. But that's really what I'm excited about right now.
Well, now
Sounds like a
now I
great
can play
night.
it.
Like, really, you're living good.
I was feeling really good. I was having a ball with it,
Nice.
But also, I've got starting to do some live events. I'm interviewing John Tenney and Jessica Napick this week.
Fun. We love them.
So, they're the best. So,
When and where? So this is coming out June 4th.
Okay, well, June 5th, the next
Tomorrow,
day.
if you're listening to
check
this,
that out
the
if
day
you
it
want
comes
to.
out.
The link will be available on my social media.
So live online, not
Live
like
online.
okay,
it'll be
awesome.
like on YouTube Live. Yeah.
Oh shit, I want to see this. This sounds like so much fun.
By. Well, I want to have you guys on for a live show if you would.
Anytime.
Please.
Riley, anything you're into right now? Anything you want to plug?
Well, I was just in France.
Oh, we didn't even talk about the fact that you just came back from your summer vacation.
Well, but I'm going to talk about French Netflix.
Really?
Because in the hotel room, I watched a movie on French Netflix called Under Paris, and I don't know how you can watch that outside of French Netflix, but it's a movie about a giant shark in the Seine, and it is fucking incredible. It weirdly lands like a very strong sort of note about ecological collapse and environmental stewardship, and it's also hilarious, and it's about a giant shark, and it eats so many fucking people, and it's just really a hell of a ride. So my recommendation is the French movie Under Paris, which I think is maybe only on French Netflix, but find it.
We all find it.
My new white whale. I'm writing it down.
VPN, baby. Get yourself a VPN
you'll find. You have the
log into
internet.
French Netflix. I love that. We'll probably talk more about, I'm sure, your vacation over on the other side at some point, because we haven't even caught up about it yet, and I want to know. I'm going to recommend, aside from all this Stonehenge stuff, if you guys have not seen the Pee Wee Herman documentary, Pee Wee as himself, yet on Max, it's so good. It's very heavy at points, and it's just a really fascinating look at a figure that was so influential in my childhood. Pee-wee's Playhouse and Pee-wee's Big Adventure were so big in my world. But also just such a great look at a creative mind and somebody who also what happens when the character takes over the real guy. You know what I mean? There's a lot of really interesting meditations on privacy and on control. It's such a great documentary, and there are high highs and low lows in it, but it's a 2-parter on HBO Max. I really recommend it. It's a really, you come away with such a greater understanding of who Paul Rubens was, I think.
I'm watching it tonight.
It's great. Sure. It's bittersweet, but it's awesome. And there's so much cool behind the scenes footage of the groundlings in LA, early stuff, and behind the scenes of Pee-wee's Playhouse and Pee-wee's Big Adventure. It's really good. So I highly recommend it. Everyone go check that out.
Awesome.
Alrighty, well, that's all for now. We're going to cross over to the other side. If we don't see you there, we will see you back here on Wednesday for an all-new installment of Big Strange Vacation. One more big thanks to Steve Berg for joining us, Steve. We love you. Go listen to High Strangeness. Until next week, good night.
And go get regressed. See you for our sleepover, Steve. End of the vacation. Getting it back together.
Getting it back together, everybody.
Bigfoot Collectors Club is produced and engineered by Riley Bray and executive produced by Riley Bray and Michael McMillan. Our theme song, Come Alone, is by Suneaters, courtesy of Lotuspool Records. Follow Suneaters on Spotify. For 3 bonus episodes every month and ad-free episodes, check out BCC The Other Side at patreon.com/BigfootCollectorsClub.